Good morning, Dolphins fans. Welcome to On the FinSide podcast with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, finfanatic.com, as well as the FanSided network. The Dolphins are going for 4 in a row here this weekend against the Panthers, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern time there. But before we get to that, Paul, it's not just football season. It's not just the holiday season. It's also eating season. So
Yes.
how was your Thanksgiving?
Dude, I am a fat guy. Thanksgiving is always great. We had a little hiccup. The turkey cooked faster this year than it should have. I mean, we made a 20-pound bird. We had 7 people here. And it was good, man. It was really good. Started the day off with some high school football. Got to spend it with the family. We had a good time, man. Good time. How about yourself?
It was my favorite Thanksgiving ever. We had Thanksgiving with my family on Thursday and then with my wife's family on Friday. So I had back-to-back Thanksgivings, and now today's leftover day. So, man, it could not have gone better. And there were 3 football games on as well. I mean, the middle one was certainly interesting, but the other 2, Bears and Lions, kind of a snooze fest, and then the Bills blew out the Saints. So, but as you know, I have my draft day hat on. So we have a special treat, a 7-round mock draft for Thanksgiving sides here. So here are the rules. We're gonna go quick with this before we get into the game.
Fat guy gets the food. That's the rule.
Paul and I are each start with turkey and stuffing. We've got that on our plate because you don't go into the draft with a barren roster, and neither do we here. So we start with turkey and with stuffing. After that, it's all up for grabs. So, Paul, I'm going to throw it to you with the first pick.
Potatoes, mine. Let's go.
It's a solid choice. I was back and forth between that, and I'm going to go with mac and cheese. A lot of people, that's like Kyle Pitts going off the board.
Dude, I got Pitts, and you immediately took Parsons. I'm telling you.
After Paul, Paul picked mashed potatoes, I picked mac and cheese. I get another one here, and then 2 back to Paul. Maybe a little boring, but it's a staple of the meal. It's a solid pick. I'm going to go with a dinner roll.
Oh, that was dirty. That was so dirty. I thought the rolls would be there. So, luckily I've got my back-to-back in this here snake draft. So, you are getting no cranberry. You are getting no cranberry. And I'm talking that canned wad of jelly goodness that goes up on the plate here. After that, man, I'm hurt.
Cranberry hurts a little. Yeah,
you nailed it on that. I was hoping you'd steal something crappy like sweet potatoes.
I'm not even showing you my poker face on that one.
I'm going to throw down some green bean casserole. I'm going to take the green bean casserole on this one. Final answer, lock it in.
Oh, that's good. I had a UDFA grade on green bean casserole. I'm not a fan. That was like when the Raiders took Alex Leatherwood 1 spot ahead of the Dolphins in this past draft. So I'm cool with that. So I've got mac and cheese roll. These are going to look like reaches here in the 3rd and 4th round, but they've got to be staples of the meal here. I'm going to go with Brussels sprouts, and that's controversial about whether or not that is a Thanksgiving food too. I say absolutely put some bacon bits on that, a little butter, salt, pepper, steak seasoning. So Brussels sprout, and then I'm going to come back too. I've got to lock my dessert down for after the meal. I got to bookend the turkey with the dessert. Nice piece of homemade American apple pie.
All right. Well, that being the case, I mean, I won't cheat and slide to the apple crumb from there, but I'll take pumpkin off the board. But it's got to have some Cool Whip on top of it, and that H in that whip is important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
And then you took the dinner roll, so I gotta take actually corn casserole. Corn casserole. It's like a mix of cornbread with cream corn, and it's just amazing.
Okay. So Paul has mashed potatoes, cranberries, green beans, casserole, corn casserole, and pumpkin pie. I've got mac and cheese, dinner roll, Brussels sprouts, and apple pie. So here we go. I'm going to go with I need a good glass of milk to cleanse the palate. I don't. I'll save the alcohol for later on in the evening, but got to cleanse the palate. Nice big glass of skim milk.
Damn, you're just taking all your seventh rounders here early.
Then this is where I start to get to have to draft undrafted free agents here in this round. You took green. Well, I wasn't going to touch green bean casserole. I'm going to go with some sautéed mushrooms.
All you. I don't know what type of Thanksgiving you have, but
this is a good looking plate here.
You had me at mac and cheese and dinner roll, and then you lost me from there, man. All right, what do I got? Back to backs here.
Back to backs. Yep.
I'm gonna go.
And these are your last two picks here.
I'm gonna go to the cleansing of the palate here. I'm gonna go red wine on this one. Red wine. No skim milk on this meal. Let's normally it'd be a beer, but we got to save some of those carbs. And then from there, I got to figure this one out because I'll give you a sneak peek. Sweet potatoes are off my board. They're going undrafted for me. Let's rock out with. I got one pick. What does chat think we should go here? Let's see what chat comes with. Chat's liking my plate, I think. No pecan pie, Phil. No pecan pie. I'm going to go with, and I'm going to make my mother happy when I do this. I'm going to go with her carrot souffle. It's like a dessert on the plate, and it's amazing.
Carrot souffle. Oh, that's a deep undrafted free agent sleeper, though.
I'm making sure that undrafted comes to me.
That's like carrot souffle had its own pro day, and you were the only one that showed up, but it turned out to be a good one. So
that regional combine went well.
Got it. Well, you had green bean casserole. I got to fill the plate here. I don't love this one, but I'm just going to go with regular green beans on this.
All right.
Just a little butter and salt on it. So my plate, and in the chat to remind everyone, turkey and stuffing. We get spotted, and we also include. Paul doesn't like gravy. I do. We don't have that. That's
that gravy. That gravy's not even getting an invite for a tryout.
Man, oh man. So I've got mac and cheese, dinner roll, Brussels sprouts, milk, apple pie, green beans, and sautéed mushrooms. Paul, with his turkey and stuffing, has mashed potatoes, cranberries, green bean casserole, pumpkin pie, corn casserole, carrot souffle, and wine. I think those are
red wine.
Red wine. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Can't have white wine with dinner. I'm gonna save the booze for later, and then do a show on it. All right. Good stuff, Paul. So let's get to the task at hand here. The Dolphins play the Panthers this weekend in Miami. Panthers are 2-point favorites. When you look at the injury report, not a lot on either side. I mean, Will Fuller and Devontae Parker are not going to be back. They look to be a couple of weeks away, but it sounded a lot more encouraging that they would be back soon. So maybe after the bye week is possible. Maybe the Giants game, which follows the Panthers game. We'll see. On the Panthers side, they've got J.C. Horn on injured reserve. That was a big loss for them several weeks ago. The right guard, John Miller, is not going to play in this game. Other than that, they're reasonably healthy. The big story here, obviously, Cam Newton back with the Panthers. But they did lose 27-21 last week to the Washington football team in Tyler Heineke's revenge game. So, Paul, I got to say, when I looked at the schedule here, after the Dolphins started 1-7, when I had the nerve to peek at the rest of the schedule, I looked at this game and I said, if they somehow get to this game and win it to make them 5-7, then only at that point am I going to allow myself to be somewhat excited about the rest of the season. And we're here now.
We are, and this is a team with a lot of identities that we're playing this weekend. It's they're each of the guys that they have is like a feast or famine guy, whether it's across the quarterback room, across the receiver room, across the running back room, other than Christian McCaffrey. It's very feast or famine on the offensive side of the ball for these Panthers. Like they every single guy on that roster feels like a Jekyll and Hyde outside of McCaffrey.
Absolutely. And DJ Moore too. DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey are both very consistent. Other than that, yeah, we'll see. I mean, Christian McCaffrey on the year has only played in 6 games. He has 750 total yards. Trying to do some quick move, 125 yards a game, which in a 17-game season would be over 2,100 total yards. And that's been consistent with his entire career. He needs, even with him being injured as much as he has, he needs 2 catches to have more receptions than any running back in NFL history in their first 5 seasons. I mean, he's somebody that is incredibly versatile. And that's what, to me, is one of the keys of the game here, Paul, defensively, is that the Dolphins need to live in the Panthers' backfield because you have to take away Cam Newton's escape routes. And on the other hand, I think such a big key of this, too, is you can't let Christian McCaffrey get into his routes on a consistent basis because if you play man defense against him, he's probably going to outrun whoever's covering him or get separation. And if you play zone defense, he's such a great route runner that he's going to sit down inside those zones.
Yeah, it says a lot that he's played that few games and is easily the number 2 receiver in terms of yardage, in terms of receptions. He is the biggest impact on that offense. And yeah, you've got to get in their backfield, but you've also got to disguise some of your coverages too. So he's not able to identify somebody dropping in zone while you've got him in man. You've got to keep eyes on him at all times. He's the scariest weapon in their arsenal, and that's including DJ Moore.
Yeah, DJ Moore is on pace here, or not on pace, but he's got right around 750 yards receiving on the season. I mean, this is somebody who's consistently over the 1,000-yard mark. But once you get past DJ Moore and you get past Christian McCaffrey, their third receiver is Robbie Anderson, 28 catches, 276 yards on the year. So a major, major drop-off after that. And the question is, what do you do with DJ Moore? Do you have Xavier Howard covering him? Do you have Byron Jones covering him? And if you play that cover 0, this is definitely a receiver that can hurt you over the top. He can hit you on slants. He can go over the top for a deep one if he's one-on-one all game. So that's the question here. But at the end of the day, I think we're in agreement that aggressive blitzing 7-man front, amoeba defense, cover 0, whatever you want to call it, is where the Dolphins play with the most confidence.
It is. And the Panthers aren't really a team that's going to get away with a lot of rub routes, and that's the anathema to that cover 0, because if you can even slow the coverage for a moment, you're hosed. But you can focus some decent resources Christian McCaffrey's way. You could focus, nickel corners or Javon Holland a bit on him in coverage and kind of disguise who's got him at various points in time. Hell, to be honest, I know Robbie Anderson's been a Dolphin killer in the past, but you could probably have Byron Jones or Xavier Howard occasionally cover McCaffrey and get away with it. It's very and Robbie Anderson, you can get away with a Nick Needham or the Coleman.
Just Coleman, yeah.
This is a weird defense or a weird offense as far as that coverage goes. But you can disguise a lot of those looks with that cover 0 as well.
Yeah, right, and that's the biggest thing is the unpredictability that it brings. It brings confidence. It brings unpredictability. I was on the Panthers podcast network's show, Grandizer 12. Thank you for connecting us on that. We really appreciate it. And he asked me, the host asked me there, who do you think is going to cover Christian McCaffrey? And I honestly said, I don't know because they're so unpredictable from game to game. I remember, Paul, actually, the last time you and I watched a game together in person is when you were in St. Louis for business here. And we watched that game. It was the Panthers against the Dolphins on Monday night. And the
Oh wow.
Dolphins just got, I can't remember if it was the Jay Cutler year or the Brock Osweiler year, but the in that game, I mean, they had Cam Newton, they had Christian McCaffrey, and watching Christian McCaffrey be covered by Kiko Alonso in zone defense that game, it was so hard to watch, and I never forget. I haven't forgotten that all week heading into this game. Happy that things are so much more unpredictable on defense.
Yeah, no, like it's something that drives me utterly insane when a team is predictable on either side of the ball. I don't like that in any way, shape, or form, especially, it's you look back, and I keep going back to the Chargers game last year when I was basically laughing during our pregame preview about how predictable their offense was. And that would drive me utterly insane, and that's something that drove me insane with the Dolphins defense at the beginning of the season, when they just lined up and said, "This is what we're doing, guys. We're going to stop you." And when they got away from that, they went from one of the bottom-ranked defenses in the league to an unpredictable defense that completely dropped their points per games allowed, and suddenly we're on a winning streak. Amazing how that happens.
Right. You look at two specific games when the Dolphins allowed 31 to the Raiders in the overtime loss, and when they got wiped out by the Colts. Those are the two games I looked at. Like, can you try to do something on defense? Can you try to, I mean, you're not stopping the run, you're not stopping the pass, and the quarterback is just dropping back and making a sandwich back there. And you look at it really starting with, it shouldn't have taken until the Texans game for them to really get aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. And now you look at the last three games, the Dolphins have allowed 36 points in the last three games, all wins. It's not a coincidence. Also, too, we'll see how many penalties for both teams in this game, too, because you look at the penalties on the year. The Panthers are 29th in the NFL with 81 penalties. The Dolphins are 24th with 75 penalties. Now, over the last couple of weeks, I don't have the exact numbers, but I believe they've cut those down. So they've certainly got to continue that here in this game. But yeah, I mean, Cam Newton's the interesting one, and he's the X factor in this game here. Where last week against Washington, he had a good game in a losing effort. The Carolina lost 27-21 to Washington. What I noticed, though, too, was not a lot of shots downfield. And they were playing a Washington football team that had just lost that week Chase Young and Montez Sweat, both on injured reserve. So not a lot of pressure on Cam Newton in that game. And 20 of his 21 completions were under 20 yards. The only one that he completed was the kind of the wheel route to Christian McCaffrey for a touchdown, which is a beautiful throw. But he's going to see something different in this game, and the last time the Dolphins faced Cam Newton, they were able to hold the Patriots at the time to 12 points.
Yeah, it's Cam Newton's one of those players that he comes out of the gate with something to prove and then gets comfy. We saw that with the Patriots, and I'm glad Cam Newton signing with them happened a few weeks ago, because we're not getting that fresh out of the gate, I'm good to go Cam Newton. We're getting the Cam Newton that gets sloppy and comfy and overconfident. Like, the worse he gets, the higher his confidence level seems to get, which is odd. And one of the weird things for me as well, I mean, I know you mentioned Christian McCaffrey, but going back to Moore, he's only caught 60% of the passes thrown his way this year. And while he's got decent yards per catch and, he's got the 60 plus receptions, he's only got 4 touchdowns to go along with it. And that says a lot to me about how he plays as a receiver and what Miami's going to be able to do with him. Because, it's very weird, because you look at him, you look at Christian McCaffrey, the rushing leader in touchdowns for Carolina is Sam Darnold.
Yeah, right, right.
They're
That's
such a weird team. It's like they've got these guys that can move the ball down the field, but they can't quite punch it in the end zone.
I I mean, I certainly have a lot more respect for more than that because I think that that's more reflective of the quarterback situation that he's had
Mm-hmm.
this year. I mean, he's had Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, and Cam Newton throwing him the ball this year.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think he's one of the best 50, at least top 15 receiver in the NFL. Former first round pick out of Maryland. He can win short. He can win deep. He can break tackles. I mean, but Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. This is why you sign them. This is why you get them on the books here and move them up to the line of scrimmage and not allow him to get into his routes, not get comfortable. And I think you're going to see that in this game here. So on the offensive side of the ball, Paul, and before we get to that, a couple of transactions this week. The Dolphins put Jamal Perry and Brennan Scarlett on injured reserve to fill those 2 roster spots. They promoted Vince Beagle, who I have a sneaky feeling might actually get on the field in this game and do something. He hasn't since really 2019, but he's able to play that edge and he has some sneaky versatility in covering out in the flats. So I think he's back with a little bit something to prove. We'll see. Now that I said that, he might be a game day inactive, so we'll see. But the other part too is Dolphins signed Philip Lindsay, running back. Your thoughts?
I like the move. I have not been a fan of what we've had coming out of the running back room this year, and I don't think it's just our offensive line. I think it's feast or famine. I think Gaskin is definitely a better change of pace back. And at least, and I think you said this as well, at least Philip Lindsay is decisive when he runs the ball. And, you know, he sees a hole and makes a cut and goes. And that's what this offense needs right now. I want to see a little more Duke Riley, and I want to see what Philip Lindsay can do out here.
Yeah, Lindsay, I definitely think it's a worthwhile signing to kick the tires on. For some history, he's had an odd career. I mean, he was an undrafted free agent out of Colorado, and I believe slept in his car as a rookie, and then became the first undrafted free agent in the history of the NFL to make the Pro Bowl as a rookie. And then here we are 2 years later, and the guy can't find a job. So he gets cut from the Texans. He's only averaging 2.6 yards a carry on the year. He's had some injuries as well. But I definitely think it's worth it. He has a lot of negatives to his game. I mean, he's not a blocker. He doesn't have natural hands or a natural feel for the passing game. He's not patient. But one thing he does do is he takes the ball and he has one speed, and that speed is pretty fast. He ran a 4.39 coming out of Colorado. He's only 5'8", 184 pounds. I do think he is, at the very least, an upgrade over Savon Ahmed and what he's shown this year. So I don't expect him to play against the Panthers this weekend because he's so new to the team. But as we get into the final few weeks, maybe you've got a player that can get 10, 12 carries a game.
Well, and here's something I like with Philip Lindsay because of what you mentioned with the one speed, because of the impatience. If they can get him hitting that C gap fairly reliably on both sides of the ball, it's going to help Miami's offensive tackles against pass rush heavy teams, because with him hitting those holes and hitting them fast like he does, you're going to see defensive ends have to hold up a little bit to play that run and keep an eye out on that gap. And that's where, if he can slow down these DNs and help these offensive tackles even a little bit, it's a worthwhile signing for me.
Right, and very little risk. I mean, he's one of the running backs I wanted the Dolphins to sign over Malcolm Brown, and he went for about the same amount of money. Now, I'm not taking victory laps on that. Lindsay has 2.6 yards a carry on the year and has been cut already. But no, I think at least he has shown NFL success. And he was very good last year against the Dolphins and the Broncos win down there in Denver. So, yeah, we'll see. I can't believe it's been half hour into the show or 25 minutes into the show. We haven't talked about Tua yet. And when you look at the Dolphins on offense, Paul, I think this is the game that is going to tell us more about Tua Tagovailoa than any other game this year. And here's why: because the opponents that Tua has faced, has the defense that he has faced has either been really good or really bad. The Panthers, they're a good defense overall for the year. They didn't show that last year against Washington when they let up 190 yards on the ground and a quarterback rating to Heineke of over 140. They didn't show that last week, but the previous 3 weeks, no quarterback threw for over 150 yards against him. So I look on the year. If you look at Tua's 2+ games against the Bills and Patriots, he's 38 for 70, 54.3% completion percentage, 420 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He had a couple touchdowns on the ground too. Quarterback rating is 65.2. Now, when he goes up against the Jaguars, Falcons, Ravens, and Jets, 4 of the lower pass defenses in the NFL, he was 100 for 133, which is an insanely high completion percentage. I don't have that exact amount. 1,051 yards and a quarterback rating of over 105. So he has played up or played down statistically to really the defense that he's faced. This against Carolina, you've got a team that's allowing a quarterback rating of about 89 on the year. So kind of right in that middle area. So this is a big, big game for Tua, not only to get the Dolphins crawling back into the playoff race here, but for him to show that, hey, I can beat a good defense and I can elevate this team even more so than I've done so far.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot to be optimistic about, I think, with Tua, and this, like you said, is going to be a test. As weird and all over the map as the Panthers' offense is, their defense overall has been pretty consistent. And the couple of things that I really like with Tua is you look at the fact that he does such a good job avoiding the sack, which is something we didn't think we'd be saying right now. The fact that he's got a high completion percentage, even though he's been pushing the ball down the field a lot more. And his ability to evade the sack and push the ball down the field is opening everything else up for this team. So hopefully we see that continue this week. If he can do that against the Panthers, there's not a defense left on the schedule really that scares me at the moment. More than, I mean, the Panthers have the best defense I think that we're facing the rest of the year. I'd have to double check that, but I think it's pretty close.
Saints and Patriots are better, but
Saints are good. The Patriots are pretty good, yeah. But
you look at the Titans are hit and miss. The Giants and Jets are, at least in the next few, and between now and Christmas for sure. I mean,
yeah.
Then this is the best defense they'll face.
No, I'd completely agree with that. But yeah, no, this is going to be a real test for Tua, and I'm actually excited to see it because don't forget he's doing this without really 2 of the top weapons he's supposed to have as well.
And we'll see when they come back. I mean, Brian Flores was at least said this week that something along the lines of they're not quite back yet. They're getting closer. Where last week it was, and the week before that it was just a flat no, they're out. So that, yeah, I mean, and that's another big thing here. You go 5-7 and win your 4th game here. Maybe you get Will Fuller and Devontae Parker back, and they take the spots of Mac Hollins and Albert Wilson. I mean, look, Hollins and Wilson have had their moments the last few weeks, obviously, but talent-wise, I mean, you're talking about a definite elevation in talent from that point. So, I mean. But Paul, what matchup that absolutely terrifies me in this game is,
I know where you're going with this one.
Liam Eichenberg and Jesse Davis going up against Brian Burns, the defensive end from drafted a few spots after Christian Wilkins out of Florida State a couple years ago, and Hassan Reddick, the outside linebacker, who has 11.5 sacks this year. So should see Jesse Davis against Reddick, and you should see Brian Burns a lot against Eichenberg. And again, going back to my fetish with arm strength or with arm length here, Burns is a long athlete, and that's typically the type that Liam Eichenberg is going to struggle with in the NFL.
Yeah, really, those are the two pass rush threats on this roster. I think third on their list after the 17 or so sacks that those two have is Shaq Thompson with 2. So that is the Carolina Panthers pass rush right there. If Miami can somehow slow them down, and part of that may be what I was saying before with Philip Lindsay, hitting that C gap a few times, just to slow him down, just that little millisecond to give Tua a chance to get the ball out. It's something that needs to happen, and they need to commit the running backs to helping out on either side, or the tight ends to helping out on either side in those cases as well, just to keep lanes open and keep Tua as clean as possible.
Yeah, Adam Shaheen is expected to miss this game at tight end.
I think he's been ruled out already now.
Yeah, he's ruled out. Elijah Campbell's ruled out, and there's one more here I'm forgetting that is anyway. It wasn't a big player, so anyway. Yeah, and as far as the running backs and tight ends, not only do they have to help in the passing game, but they've got to be safety valves too. And I think an effective strategy could be, and the Dolphins haven't shown this a lot, is if you get Reddick and you get Burns charging upfield and you slip out a screen pass there to Myles Gaskin, then I think that could help neutralize the edges too. Or you can, like you said, get Durham Smythe in there, kind of be that sixth offensive lineman and help out on both sides. This is what happens when you're as bad as the Dolphins are at the tackle positions. But I look at that matchup and I see the Panthers creating pressure all day on Tua, and then their back seven, you got Shaq Thompson and Jeremy Chin, very athletic, unpredictable players. The Panthers give a lot of different looks on defense. And at cornerback, Stephon Gilmore, who we've seen a lot of from the Bills and the Patriots days. They signed him, and he's been playing well the last couple of weeks too. So, yeah, I mean, this is if the Dolphins can move the ball and put up 24 points against the Panthers, which I think will be a very difficult task, there will be a lot of optimism offensively for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and Steph Gilmore does scare me a little bit. It's despite Tua's upgraded accuracy the past few weeks, he still has thrown at least one "what the hell was he thinking" type of interception in every game this year, and that's something that we need to see get cleaned up. And you had to bring up Jeremy Chin. I still remember, and this is, I've got a lot of love for the Dolphins safety room. Jeremy Chin and Kyle Duggar were two that you remember in the draft a couple of years ago. I was just pounding the table for, and I hate how often I hear their names around the NFL. Still, they're two very versatile guys that can do a lot of things for you.
Jeremy Chin from SIU and Kyle Duggar from Lenore Ryan Junior College. I mean, they've come in and they've acclimated quickly. And Jeremy Chin is a bigger, much faster version of Brandon Jones for the Panthers defense. I mean, he is that strong safety / linebacker. When you have some players with the range and the versatility that Shaq Thompson and Jeremy Chin have, I mean, that's a big deal. And that's something Tua's got to look out for. Another matchup that doesn't favor the Dolphins is Derek Brown on the inside, the former top 10 pick out of Auburn. He's kind of hit and miss for them. He can take over some games. He can look foolish in other games, but when he's on, he is a handful to deal with. And that's important because if the Dolphins can find a way to neutralize, or at least, I don't even think they have a chance to neutralize the outside with Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns. But when Tua, if they can get away from those edge rushers and step up, you've got Derek Brown there. So I am not liking this matchup with the Dolphins offensive line against the Panthers pass rush and defensive line.
I'd like it a lot better with Hunt at tackle and Kinley and Jones at guard.
Well, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. I don't know why, but
it shouldn't have. The ship's still there. It's right there. They're all active on game day.
I mean, it may take Jesse Davis giving up 3 or 4 sacks in this game for the Dolphins say, oh, yeah, we should have done that. We should have done that 7 weeks ago. We never should have moved Robert Hunt from right tackle to right guard. I think Hunt's worse at right guard than he was at right tackle. And then when you factor it gets Jesse Davis in one of the most important positions on the field, protecting Tua's blind side, it's even more foolish. So I don't know. I mean, and I got to be honest too, that if I felt the Dolphins offensive line could even get to a respectable level this year in any way, I'd be a lot more optimistic about how this season's going to turn out. It's great they've won 3 in a row. They have a good chance to win this game too. They have a good chance to win 6 in a row. But this offensive line, hate it. They've got to do better in the offseason.
Yeah, and it's, this is cart way ahead of the horse here. If Miami were to rattle off that 6 in a row, and were to squeak into the playoffs, the line is what scares me in terms of being able to hold up in a playoff game. 100%. It's when I sit there and start looking at players already for next year's draft, I'm combing linemen. And my biggest problem with the line, though, is even given the talent that's on the roster today, I don't feel like the Dolphins are going to effectively evaluate offensive linemen. I think they need a complete overhaul, including offensive line coach yet again.
Right. And how do you tell Steve Ross that we're going to fire our offensive line coach in the 4th year in a row?
You point at any game tape from this season.
That's a good answer. Yeah. I mean, the Dolphins in the offseason, this is a really strong offensive tackle class in the 2022 draft. It's the best position by far, at least I'm saying at this point. We've got time to talk about the draft many months after the season. But yeah, I mean, I won't let my head get to any playoff talk unless the Dolphins win this game. Another matchup they've got to win too is, obviously Mike Gesicki's got to have a big game, and Jalen Waddle does as well. Jalen Waddle is going to be matched up in the slot probably with AJ Boye, which could be a favorable matchup for the Dolphins because Boye is more of a bigger type of cornerback, not the usual stocky slot cornerback that can tackle well that you see. So this has got to be the week Jalen Waddle breaks a long one, and he almost did last week against the Jets. So, Paul, taking a look at this game, I'm going to throw it to you first for the prediction.
I think Miami continues to get it done here, but I think it's going to be a fight. They're going to have to really overwhelm the Panthers' offense in this one. I'm going to go 21-17 Miami.
Okay. Point-wise, I think we're pretty close on that. I see this. The over-under, I think, 42.5. I think it's going to be under in this one. I said last week that if we divide the season up, where if you take a look at the Jets, Panthers, Giants, and then Jets again, I think the Dolphins are going to be 3-1 in that area, and then they're going to win one game in their final 3. And that I'm still there right now. And I think this is the game that the Dolphins drop. I'm going to go 17-13 Panthers. And I'll give another prediction too. After the game, it's going to be a post-Thanksgiving food fight on Twitter for a long time for Dolphins fans here, because it's going to go back to, well, Tua needs to play better. He needs to elevate the team. And it's going to go back. The other side's going to be saying, well, how do you expect him to do that when you've got Jesse Davis and Liam Eichenberg against Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick? And I think that's the matchup the Dolphins are not going to be able to overcome. So I don't see them having a great day on offense. I'm going to go 17-13 Panthers.
I can understand that. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. If it's going to come down to our offense versus their defense, and we need X to get a patented Xavier Howard score in this one to help out the offense a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Even though I'm going to stick with my prediction, I can't see a route too where where Cam Newton comes in and can't get anything going, even with Christian McCaffrey in the lineup, and he's just completely overwhelmed. And the final score ends up being 16-3 or 16-6, somewhere in that range. But for now, I'm going to stick with 17-13 Panthers as my prediction, and that's going to do it.
One last thing,
yeah,
though.
sure.
One last thing. I want to see Javon Holland deck Cam Newton at least once, if not more.
I don't, because that's a penalty.
No, deck him legally.
Okay, legally deck him. Okay, yeah, I want to see him I want to see him blitzing. I want to see him being unpredictable, and I could see how Javon Holland would be the player that Cam Newton can't figure out because he doesn't know where he's lining up on a down-to-down basis, and that's where the Dolphins defense has to be in general. Paul, anything else jump out from the chat, from the show in general? Any final thoughts?
Nah, I think I won the Thanksgiving draft here. We'll yeah. Even though you got the mac and cheese and the dinner rolls, I think I took the Thanksgiving draft.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't trade a side for next year for a side this year to give yourself 8 picks. That's usually what you do when we do our mock drafts.
I had the thought, but we'll have to see as the season approaches.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us here. We very much look forward to this show, and we're extremely thankful for you year round as well, joining us not only on Saturday morning but also Sunday night and throughout the off season as well. And that's going to do it for our breakdown of the Dolphins Panthers matchup for this Sunday. Huge game for both teams. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, the finfanatic.com website, FanSide and Network. I'm Brian Cat, NFL on Twitter. Paul is fanatic_pick. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the fin side.